Please order, all rise. For the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the schedule of meetings of the Township Council established and adopted by the Township Council, which schedule designated time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. Where I use an electronic amplifying recording device and in order to obtain an audible and clear record, we request all those wishing to speak be recognized to state your name and address directly into the microphone. The recording device to be solely utilized by the Township Clerk's Office. It shall be the official record of Township Council meetings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison.
Present.
Mr. Schmidt.
Present.
Mr. Seiler.
Here.
Mrs. Trotto.
Mrs. Trotto is out with a family emergency.
Mrs. Swinton. Here. Mr. Mercado.
Present.
Mr. Bean Haney.
Present.
Mr. Lechner.
Here.
Chief Earl.
Here.
Parliament.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Parks.
Here.
We now have the first public portion. Anyone wishing to speak on agenda items only, please raise your hand, come to the microphone. Ray?
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidor, Ariel. This is rather something that would be missing from the agenda rather than is an agenda item, and I thought that it would be appropriate to speak to you before the second public portion. At the last meeting, I'm sure you recall, the discussion was on the proposal for Remington and Vernick to go out and do the evaluation of red light cameras. I had indicated at that time that it was my opinion, based on the information that I had, that the red light cameras would not be here during the month to which you had scheduled that evaluation. It's obvious that, and I made the phone call to the clerk, that the NJDOT has notified Gloucester Township that our red light cameras will go dark on December 16th. With that being said, and it was on the record as proposal, and council was polled on the item, is it the intention of council to rescind that proposal and cancel the evaluation of the red light cameras for December 2014?
Tom, did you officially get notice from the state?
We did. We received a letter from the state dated October 29th, indicating that effective the end of the day on December 16th.
Okay. So therefore, we probably will not need the
Unless something else is issued.
Yeah, there's only one concern that I would have. The last time it was certified was June this year. So there are probably several tickets that have been issued since that date, and I'm sure the certification of the cameras, the operation of the cameras, is always an issue of defense evidence. So if it's not been certified since June, and there are tickets that are issued July, August, September, October, November, and we're not certifying, then it becomes a defense question against the tickets to defend whether or not that is an element of proof. That's the only thing that I would be a little cautious about, because I'm sure doing the defense of a ticket, just like any ticket, drunk driving ticket or speeding ticket, there's always certifications and elements that have to be proven. That's the only caution I would have, because you have to probably have several tickets from June through November, December. The defense attorney could raise the issue of lack of certification.
I thought that might be a concern to you, so I will repose the question. So therefore, by that statement, you're saying that the December evaluation of lights would be a certification of the past performance rather than future, correct?
Can be used in a defense issue, absolutely.
All right. And
I remember the certification was a mandate under the program. You have to certify every 6 months, I believe it was.
And that was before the condition was known that these lights would go dark. I, as a citizen, and I'm no lawyer, but I would say that no evaluation might be in the better interest, because should you go out in December and evaluate these lights and find that the timing is off, you're going to encourage quite a few people all the way back to June to have their violations revisited. Whereas if you do no evaluation, the last certification sounds at that point to be better factual going into the end of the program. Agreed?
That hypothesis sounds very risky to me. I don't think, again, I warned you that you're spending $1,200 when the minimum amount that appears to be generated based on just the cost alone per month appears to be approximately $1,600 a day, and it's probably well in excess of that in terms of the actual fines and the violations. So you're talking about 1 day of violations and an amount less than that just to certify those red light cameras and those traffic signals. I think that is very risky.
Can I say something, Greg? Thinking about this, I think maybe a twist on this might be, we're really interested in justice. And if the certification comes back and it reflects that it's not properly timed, then think of all the people who otherwise may have pled guilty to a violation. Now they won't have to because it's borne out that the timing was off.
I think that Gloucester Township and AFT is in enough issues with their past performance, having 2 dates down to open up a can of worms like that. If the program's ending and American Traffic Solutions is not going to be getting our $49,000 monthly anymore, and you open up that can of worms for the past 6 months, the calculations of what could be and the responsibility to which that lies on, I just think you guys are pushing way too hard to have Remington and Vernick go out the same month that the program's ending. I mean, Remington and Vernick in the township has a great relationship, both governmentally and politically. No mistaking. Remington and Vernick can really do without that $1,200. And it seems like pennies. But to people of Gloucester Township, it's an unnecessary expense. Think about it. You're sending them out. You don't even have a date picked. December 2014, the proposal said. If you're being required to do that, I'm sure the state and the DOT can see that on a mandated period of time that coincides with the expiration of this program. Has anybody bothered since we spoke of this last to check with the NJDOT or the state? Or was what I was saying just an assumption? I could not have been the only one that had a pretty good idea that these lights were going down. Did anyone check as to...
I had heard certain things, but I don't make it a practice to believe necessarily what I hear. So I expected to get back information when we came tonight as to whether or not it was going to be discontinued or not. And to your earlier point, right, truly, I'm looking at this differently than you. I am. I don't want to be in a position where we fail to obtain a certification, okay? And as a result of our failure to do it, we now theoretically might be sued by the who is it, ATS?
Yes.
ATS? For failure, I mean, we theoretically should have maybe done the certification. We didn't do it as a result of not doing it. Now, those fines which otherwise would have been collected can't be collected. I mean, I just think that there could be a theory of liability that ATS could have against us. And you know what? I don't have all the answers, but that is a concern of mine.
Well, and not getting too deeply into the political aspects of this, the 5-year program for the state ran a total of 5 years. We entered into the program at a later date. I mean, who's to say that American Traffic Solutions is not going to go after Gloucester Township for $49,000 a month out to May? That's what we are contractually agreed with American Traffic Solutions. Is that correct, or is that under the assumption that the pilot would exist? Did we sign a contract with them for 5 years?
I don't have the contract, but I did communicate with the gentleman from ATS, and they said they are prepared to disable the cameras on the 16th of December.
Without a financial responsibility to the township?
It did not indicate that there was any financial responsibility from the township.
Okay. And again, I'm going to have to refer back to if anyone here or the mayor bothered to check with the state or the NJDOT as to whether it would be our responsibility to go do that evaluation. I think it's a waste of money. I believe that the state would surely see that. Had I gotten a call back, I spoke with Assemblyman Declan O'Scanlan's office today, and I indicated that I thought, and again, I say this all, with all due respect, a sense of arrogance of this township to go forward to do this evaluation. It really is ridiculous. Let's send somebody out to check on something that's not going to be there in a few weeks.
If I can interject with this debate over there, we haven't done the certification yet. We have to move December. I knew this would be an issue. Perhaps over the next 7 days, if our solicitor and the prosecutor for the township can put their heads together to see if a certification is needed to protect the township and validate any summonses that were issued over the past 6 months or not. I'll hold off until a decision is made, and if it's needed for to validate those, we'll go ahead and do the certification. If it's not, then we'll just hold off. Or we won't do it.
So if that's the case, then our solicitor and prosecutor and any other law enforcement official can determine if there is or is not a need for it.
Right.
Then we'll just rescind the.
If we send it, then if you need it, we'll have the authority to go ahead already to do it, and if it's not needed, we just won't.
Council, okay with that?
Do we have any idea how many tickets we're talking about?
I don't know if Tom does.
I do not.
And I'm sure the chief does not know a number.
Not exactly. It's quite a few since June, I can assure you.
So I would just, should we do a poll on that since
But
there's no direction that we either continue once you and the prosecutor and the chief get together and talk about it, or if it's not, then it would be rescinded, so we don't have to.
what's the deadline date to do the
I guess December 16th is the drop dead date, but that's when it's coming off.
we can do it next regular meeting, make the final decision? We have time for the next regular meeting?
When's the regular meeting?
Yeah.
8th? Yeah, December 8th, so we could wait to that.
Mr. Bianchini, can I interject? Is the drop dead date the 16th, or is it the end of the month on this? Because the proposal read December 2014.
Our last 6-month certification was done on June 5th, I believe it was. So,
Why don't we wait to the 8th? John will ask you not to proceed until,
We can meet for what, I'm sorry?
wait to the 8th to make a decision whether they should proceed or we rescind it.
But that's after the 6-month period.
Not
not
according
really.
Well, June 5th is the last time you've done it, you've got to do it every 6 months.
Well, it's 6 months. Our first certification was done at the beginning of the program. I think it was December 29th, we did it December 28th. I think in June, we just had a window to do it, so we did it a little earlier than normal.
I'd say that you got to stick to within 6 months of your last certification, John. And I'm not telling you how to do your job, but I'm saying err on the side of caution.
Well, it doesn't
To the day,
require-
Dan? I'm sorry, to the day?
It doesn't require a resolution vote of council because it's the township engineer that we do by polling. The township engineer is already appointed to do those kind of services. So at the work agenda meeting, you can do the same type of method of directing the engineer to do that certification as you can to rescind it. So at the work agenda meeting, which is December 1st, we can have it
Otherwise, we're
before,
going to get that.
and then we can advise the engineer not to do it or to do it under the same method because he's a regular township engineer.
And again, just to add into that equation, when you discuss this, just think of the consequences. Should the timing be off? If you're doing it based on past performance, that's a 6-month load of violations that have to be revisited.
But that's
our
the
obligation.
interest of justice.
That's right, and if we solve with, remember, there's 4 intersections, it would just be the intersection. And actually, the direction or the leg, that is all. All the other tickets would still be valid. It would just be those who got, say, going southbound.
But I think if it is wrong, Ray, we owe it to the public to let them know that as well.
I can certainly understand it. So you'll straw poll again officially on the
Discuss it
record?
at the workshop and do a straw vote.
Okay, that works. I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Evening, Council. Robert Kolakowski, Lincoln Drive, Glen Oaks. I will pick this up here since Ray brought it up. I believe that red light cameras have their place. I believe that any fines collected from them should go to support of highway infrastructure or driver education, something like that, rather than to municipality. I've never been caught in any of the Gloucester Township red lights. I was caught once on the Deptford one. And I paid it, I was wrong. I would encourage you to go through with the testing. Again, for the reasons stated, for all the money that was already paid in fines, they could be challenged, and it does give you that, that certification for that time. My only concern would be on what day it would be done. It looks like the 15th would be the last day that they would be operational, and they would be shut off on the 16th. So I think the 15th is a Monday, so, you know, the 12th or the 15th, just to give yourself, you know, is the maximum time. But I don't see, and again, I'm not necessarily a fan of red lights. They do have their place, the cameras, but again, I think it's just a matter, and the amount that we're talking about, $1,200 for the amount that could be challenged in court, and not only for the fines themselves, but you're going to have administrative costs for refunding, etc. I would encourage you to go ahead with the testing and the certification of the lights.
And Rob, the determination of the date will be figured out too, since we aren't 100% sure of the 6 months. Thank you. Pete?
Pete Heinbaum, Morningstar Court, Sicklerville. I have a question on 4 different agenda items. First, a couple items on the bill list, and these are the questions I submitted last night to Mr. Cardis. First one, we paid Archer and Griner $19,900 some dollars. Can you tell me what that payment was for?
Yeah, I mean, it really dealt with a lot of stuff, but the bulk of it is the negotiations for the expired contracts that we're working on now. So they've been heavily involved in the lease negotiations. We also had a few disciplinary actions, and we're also looking at redoing the personnel policy and procedural manual. So that really represented a period from the beginning of August through the end of October.
Okay. Thank you.
The other question?
Yeah, but just to follow up with Archer and Griner, with the contracts expiring and things like that this year, we can expect can we expect a lot lower level of spending with them for the next fiscal year?
Specifically, what are we talking about?
Just in general, all the labor-related expenditures with Archer and Griner, it's been pretty high this
Once
year.
the contract's settled, yes, I would expect that to be
Okay.
reduced.
Okay, and my second question was about the payment to Blue Sky Power.
Yeah, Blue Sky, again, is the energy consultant that was appointed through the RFQ process. We do meet with, and I'm involved in those meetings with Blue Sky to review our energy program. Every 2 weeks we meet. They continue to work on the Owens Corning site. They finished out the large PPA and solar project that we did with the local and the Blackhorse Pike Regional. There's additional work that's going on right now on Dems landfill. And so there are projects that are still being worked on.
Okay.
And that also was, I believe, for a 2.5 month period.
Okay. And my third question to you, Tom, from the bill list was that long list. I counted 14 manual checks that for payments to trust accounts.
The reason that they are manual checks is those are actually homeowners coming in and redeeming there's liens against the property, so they're paying the outstanding delinquencies. Once they're paid, we have an obligation to immediately pay back the lien holders. So that's why you see those as handwritten checks, because
Okay.
they cannot wait for a bill list.
Right. So that trust account, I see the account number on that manual check report, but I don't see an account description. That's that trust lien account that's being paid against then?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, next agenda item is related to the, it's Resolution 291, related to the billing the school district for the police presence at the schools. I remember earlier this year at a Gloucester Township Board of Education meeting, there was a lot of pushback and questioning from the Board of Ed side of why those bills are being paid. And if I remember, what happened at the meeting is audience members questioned and asked why, and the Board of Ed or the superintendent said something to the effect of, I don't have all the answers to your questions right now, but I'll get back to you. And so have they been paying, has the school district been paying as scheduled, like last year and prior years for this police service?
Well, again, there's two agreements. One is for the Blackhorse Pike Regional, the other is for the local, and I assume we're talking about the local.
I'm talking about the local, yes.
So, with regard to the local actually owes the municipality $300,000 for the 2013-14 school year.
Okay.
They will owe an additional $150,000 as of December 31st of 2014 for half of the 14-15 year. So yes, they owe the municipality.
They haven't paid last calendar year, school year's $300,000 yet, okay. Are they disputing that, or is there a question in their mind about the viability, that that's a reasonable bill, or that it's?
I have not had a direct issue raised. I have asked for payment of monies.
Okay.
No, I haven't had an explanation why it hasn't been paid.
Right. And on the Gloucester Township books, when those payments are received, where do they get booked in the statements? Like a credit against?
They're actually a return to appropriation. They go back into the police salary.
In the police budget, that's a?
Yeah.
Okay. So in effect, it's reducing the expense as a township expense. It offsets some of that expense.
And the chief would expand on it, but those officers really are working exclusively for the schools.
Right.
You really can't, even though if you look at 10 months versus 12 months, those 2 months, they're for all intents and purposes, they're lost for us. We really can't use them in police work.
Okay. Next agenda item is the Resolution 296, which is that SEC bond disclosure compliance report. It's like we're getting Acacia to complete that report. What is Acacia charging us for this report? Do we have a
I don't have numbers for that. It would be on an hourly basis, and their contract provides for an hourly rate.
So it'd be under their contract rate as the financial consultant for the township? Under that?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. And on that resolution, in the detailed explanation section, in section 2 of that detailed explanation, it says something about the possibility we may have made prior period misstatements on the bond disclosure. Have we? Is that what?
No, it's not just involving Gloucester Township. It's involving almost every municipal entity that's out there, including Camden County itself. Camden County passed the same resolution. It does insinuate that maybe the accuracy of the information provided in the official statements for not only Gloucester Township, but for almost every municipality is not as up to date as it should have been.
Right.
And in so, they're asking for clarification moving forward. So what we're doing is we're responding that we will be what's called self-reporting. So we will make sure that all that information is up to date.
And that's a mandate that's going out to all governmental entities that do any form of bonding.
The school districts have to do it, the MUA had to do it, everyone, yeah. Next agenda item is Resolution 299 with the budget transfers. And I saw there's a whole page. I have that here. There's a whole page of budget transfer items. Some of them rather large numbers here.
There are.
Is there anything anything worth explaining, anything that needs more explanation of the numbers on this page?
Did you have particular questions about anything?
Well, I'd see the largest number on here is the 760,000 we're taking out of the employee group insurance operating expense.
That's correct.
So we over budgeted for that.
I wouldn't say we're over budget. I think we had a better year than we anticipated we might have.
Since
a
we're
lot of
self-
it has to do with the network that we have in place right now.
Okay.
Certainly, it's helped with Chapter 78 as people move further through the steps, the 4-year steps. They're paying more into their health insurance.
Okay. Some of the largest numbers where we're transferring more money into the budget. One's the zoning board operating expenses. We're transferring 175,000. What went over in that area?
That is because of the Iron Horse gun range case, and again, that would be for legal defense. Gibbons, I believe, is the firm.
Okay. And another large item I saw, grants operating expense. We're transferring $100,000 into that budget item.
No, engineering, that's engineering.
Yeah, grants is only 200.
Grants is not.
It's above that is
Okay.
engineering.
That was because of additional engineering.
Okay. All right, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no other hands, we'll close the first public portion. Proclamation.
Whereas driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs continues to ruthlessly threaten our families, friends, coworkers, and neighbors, and whereas all drivers risk impairment when consuming alcohol or other impairing drugs, whether legal, over-the-counter, and prescription medications or illegal substances, and whereas increased public awareness of the DUI problem is crucial now at the holiday season when celebrating often means the deadly combination of alcohol and driving. And whereas throughout the year, but particularly December, we ask each citizen to make a conscious effort to help prevent DUI by not driving impaired, never serving those under the age of 21 alcohol, planning safe parties, including providing non-alcoholic drink options to guests, and not serving alcohol the last hour of the gathering, and preparing to get everyone home safe in case plans or individual circumstances change. And whereas the Gloucester Township Police Department, the Mayor, and the Gloucester Township Council joined forces this year to remind citizens that impaired driving crashes are 100% preventable if we all do our part to prevent them. Now therefore we, the Gloucester Township Police Department, David R. Mayor, Mayor Udden, Glenn Bianchini, and the Gloucester Township Council do hereby designate December 2014 as National Impaired Driving Prevention Month to make our roads safer for all.
Thank you, Rob. Minutes?
Waive the reading and accept the minutes of regular meetings October 15th, 27th, and November 10th, and executive session September 8th.
Motion to approve the minutes? On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Seiler?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Bianchini?
Yes. Next are ordinances of second reading, and there will be a public hearing. Ordinance O-14-19. Bond ordinance authorizing various improvements to the stormwater drainage system in the Township of Gloucester County and Camden, New Jersey, appropriating the sum of $1,600,000, therefore authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds or bond anticipation notes of the Township of Gloucester County and Camden, New Jersey, in the aggregate principal amount of up to $1,600,000, making certain determination and covenants and authorizing certain related actions in connection with the foregoing. This ordinance, as the title states, is used to bond various improvements to the stormwater drainage system. We now have a public hearing on this ordinance. Yes, Pete.
Pete Heimbaugh, Morningstar Court. Just a couple of simple questions on that. On the detailed explanation that goes with this bond ordinance, there's pages and pages of explanation, but nothing addressing what I would consider what really the public would want to know. We don't know interest rate, the cost of borrowing, like fees and commissions, the term of the bond and maturity date of the bond. Just some of the basic stuff that we really want to know rather than the legalese that goes on for a few pages.
Well, in there, we do have where the improvements are being,
Yeah, what we're purchasing is on there, yeah.
about any of the other items that he spoke about.
Yeah, they would not be specified until we close the bond. The bond has to be closed, and I believe it has to go before the local finance board for that closing.
But once that's done, that's all public.
Eventually, there will be information, there'll be actually a bound document that will spell out all those costs.
Where's that document?
It's filed with the township, and I believe it's available through the local finance board.
Is there a way, just for better transparency and openness, to put it on the, I know we don't know the exact information now, but we have bond counsel and finance consultants, and we do this a couple times every year. Don't we have a real good idea of what the cost of borrowing is and the maturity, and I mean, don't we know before we issue it, some of the,
No, I think it would be, you'd be estimating. I don't think you can pin those numbers down at this point.
We could share those numbers, Pete, when he has them, we could share them. We'd be more than happy to share
I
them.
think that's appropriate. Of all the information we'd want to know about the bonds, it's almost nothing, except for what we're purchasing, which is on the ordinance, which is great, that's on there. But everything else we'd want to know about it, none of that's ever
So
made
we
very
can't
public.
do it here at this time,
Right,
but
okay.
we can share that information if you need to see.
And if Mr. Heimel wants to look at any of the previous issuances, particularly anytime we're going out for general obligation bonds, which, as I've told you in the past, tends to combine various bond
That's right.
issuances because you want economies of scale. So we tend not to go out this maybe once every 2 or 3 years. But those documents, those bound versions, include all those costs broken out by the auditor, the financial firm, the underwriter, bond counsel. So you're welcome to come look at any one of those documents.
So you,
Technology as it is right now, does it make sense that we should be scanning that information and have a historical archive going forward of this information?
No, each one of those bound volumes are about that big, so I don't know what area particularly I would scan.
so related to this 1.6 million then, for now, it's just going to a note, and at some point you'll bundle the notes together to a large bond issuance. Is that
That'd be my understanding.
which way you figure it'll happen? Okay, thank you.
Pete? Anyone else? See no other hands, we'll close the public portion. Motion to adopt.
Second?
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Seiler?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Inking?
Yes. Next are ordinances of first reading. Ordinance O-14-20. Ordinance authorizing execution of tax abatement agreement between Township of Gloucester and Comprehensive Property Management for premises block 18404, lot 5. This ordinance states this is for a tax abatement agreement between the Township of Gloucester and Comprehensive Property Management. Chuck, is there anything to add to this?
No, this is just a small 6,000 square foot office building. It's on Cross Keys Road. It's between Sicklerville Road and I guess where the Acme is. They tore an old house that was bad down, dilapidated, and they really improved the property. It's a nice building.
Thank you, Chuck. Motion to adopt.
So moved.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Seiler?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Inking?
Yes. Next is ordinance O-14-21. Ordinance authorizing execution of tax abatement agreement between Township of Gloucester and Eric D. Githens for premises block 16301, lot 5. This, again, is a ordinance to execute a tax abatement agreement between the Township and Eric D. Githens. Chuck, anything to add on that?
This is a small metal pole barn building. It's the building if you're right behind Aerial Fire Hall, right on that little curve. It was really a junk property that they built a nice little motorcycle repair shop there. He's doing a nice business, local guy. It's really a nice little project.
Okay. Motion to adopt.
So moved.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Seiler?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Yes. We now have the resolution to consent agenda. Any council person wishing to remove any of these resolutions, please let me know now.
Mr. President, can I have 291 removed, please?
291. Anyone else? So do we have, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda minus resolution 291.
So moved, less 291.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Seiler?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Bianchini?
Yes.
291, resolution authorizing execution of a shared services agreement formerly known as an interlocal services agreement between the Gloucester Township School Board of Education and the Township of Gloucester pursuant to NJSA 48A for Special Resource Officer.
As the title states, this resolution will execute a shared service agreement between Gloucester Township and the school board, Gloucester Township School Board of Education, for special resource officers. Motion to approve.
Before I, so moved.
On the question,
Before I cast my, my vote, I asked the solicitor, are we able to continue as a municipality to provide this service without payment? I'm concerned that our hands may be tied and we may not be able, absent payment, to continue doing this.
Well, I guess that there's a finance element for me to answer that question, but as I understand just the tone of the conversations over the past years to commit to the resource officer in our schools with the times of today, the way things are, that's always been the philosophy and commitment of this administration to provide it. So we are doing it, I guess, youth administration, mayor and council is providing the resource officer in the local, notwithstanding that the local has declined to sign the service agreement. So it comes down to an accountability of the budget. The money's in their budget, but they're not paying. It's in our budget, and we're spending it.
But my fear is this: if we're violating the local finance law, I mean, we have to be accountable to the taxpayers, and we have to follow the law. And if they don't make the payment to the town, and we're providing a service that we know isn't going to be compensated, I think it may bring into question whether or not we're permitted to do that.
I'd have to look into that offhand. I could not say yes or no whether or not there's any financial violation under the financial regulations, local finance board regulations that govern our budgets and what have you. The only thing I can tell you is that the terms of the agreement were all disclosed ahead of time. As I understand it, and I had communication with the local school board attorney, that everyone has committed to this, and we worked together to do our resolutions and see that the contracts were signed for a past year and again this year. But we moved forward and provided the service. It's in their budget because they agreed to it. But when it came time to vote for it, it has not got to that point.
So the local school board did not vote on it.
They have not voted to authorize the payment.
Well then, what can we do as a different board, as a different governmental entity, to make sure that they at least vote on it? Because this board right here, this governmental entity, has to know, one way or another, what's going to happen.
Well, this governing body taking the position tonight to pass this will now cause me to send it over to them and say, this is money that is due. We've already completed all our legal requirements to enter into the shared service agreement, even though we've already provided the services as understood and agreed.
Can it be said to them that if they do not vote on it, that they may be causing us to not be able to render that service? And that's a very serious implication if, I mean, one way or the other, they either vote yes or they vote no. But we need to know in order for us to do our job.
You're absolutely correct. We need to.
And if I need to go to that board meeting, I'll go. But they cannot prevent us from giving them that which needs to be given.
So Dave, there is no legal binding if we pass this resolution that would force us to provide that service until they vote on it then? Because we're already providing the service. We're providing the service. We have yet to get paid for any of it. And so they have yet to address, I guess there has been an interlocal agreement at one point, or there had to be one. They did not vote on that one.
Correct.
So by us putting another one out there, is that jeopardizing our?
Well, it's not unilateral action on behalf of the township. Everyone here knows that the resolution is a resolution authorizing the execution of a shared service agreement. That means the terms of that agreement have already been agreed to by school board, executive board members or whoever, and then also the governing body. So then once that's agreed to between my office and the school board's attorney's office, we come up with the language to put into the agreement. If they agree to it, I agree to it, and it goes to council as well as it goes to their controlling or governing body. And we're passing it. We've already been providing the services and tried to get them to they're accepting the services, so contractually they've already ratified the agreement. They already put the dollars into their school budget. We put the money expended out of our budget. So everybody ratified what the handshake was. The actual formality of signing a contract and paying the bill is what's not.
If they budgeted for it, Mr. President, and they haven't paid it over to us, this cannot be a political football, not when children are at stake.
I agree,
This has
Dan.
got to be resolved.
And my concern, is there any, Dave, is there any authority we can go to, whether it's the county superintendent or, I don't know if there's anything out there that could I don't know what they're holding up, to be honest with you. It's a simple thing. When all that happened in Connecticut, everybody was at heightened alert about it. We had our police department do an evaluation. They came up with the plan. Everybody agreed to it. And then when it came down to put the rubber to the road, they decided, for whatever reason, not to go along with it.
We provided the service immediately.
Right,
Provided
and
it
I
in
think
January.
we had that, we wanted that. I know council members, when it was discussed to us, we wanted that. I just don't understand the board's,
At least vote on it.
yeah, I agree with you, Dan.
I've heard them, that there was, somebody had raised an issue of cost. I provided from my office cost calculations. In fact, the numbers actually came out to be over 300,000, and based on my instructions from the mayor, we trimmed that back to 300,000 for each of the two school districts.
My problem is they had a line item in their budget for this,
Yep.
and they're not casting a vote on it.
Yep.
And if it comes down to not being able to provide this service because they don't cast a vote on it, that's reprehensible.
So we need to resolve this, and I would ask David that you do that expeditiously.
Once this is approved, my next step is to then reach back to their attorney. The contract's exactly the same as the contract with the regional. Did the same approval process and negotiation process. They've passed their resolution and signed, making their payments to local school boards.
So by us approving this, we're not putting ourselves in that.
No, you're not.
Any other questions?
I'd like to thank you, Mr. Einbach, for bringing that up, and I vote yes for this.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Seiler?
Yeah.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Abstain.
Yes.
Resolution 298, resolution amending resolution R 1411-287, entitled Resolution appointing members to the Gloucester Township Historical and Scenic Preservation Committee.
This resolution will correct the prior resolution that we approved at our last meeting There was an error that Ms. Louise Tyshak was resigning her position on the Gloucester Township Historical and Scenic Preservation Committee. That was incorrect, and we now are correcting this, that Cecilia Rosato will fill the unexpired terms of Jacqueline Pianolini. So I ask for a motion to approve this.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Seiler?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
299, resolution to make budget transfers between appropriations in the calendar year 2014 general fund budget.
As the title states, this resolution will make budget transfers for the calendar year 2014 general fund budget. Tom, anything to add?
This is just one of two transfers that will occur towards your end. There'll be another transfer in December to clean everything up on that.
Thank you, Tom. Motion to approve.
So moved.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Seiler?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Dean King.
Yes. I did not receive any GTE Gov access questions, so we'll move on to the second public portion. Anyone wishing to speak on any item, please raise your hand, come to the microphone. Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Eric Giffens. You went over an abatement for our little shop earlier tonight.
Right.
My purpose in coming here tonight is to make you aware of a problem I'm having and sort of ask for help. It's sort of the second course of action that I have on this. We built that little building. We've had a business in Gloucester Township since 2005. Saved up, bought the land, put the building up, went through everything legally we had to do to get that up. We passed all of our final inspections on May 29th of this year. We then began to try to get our CO, because after the final you go for your CO. I was told at that time that I couldn't get my CO because I needed to pay another $3,100 to affordable housing, at which time I was completely out of money with all the costs, the bonds, everything we had to do that we were required to do for this. I was just dead broke. So I went and met with the mayor. The mayor said that didn't apply to us, that we were done before the date, and that he was going to waive that. He did. He got that waived for us. So then I was excited. We're going to get our CO. Instead, we had Bernie Shepherd send Jim Gower into our shop and then failed us for everything we passed. At that point, I made a call, talked to Mr. Shepherd, and said that I didn't think that that was legal to do, that we had already passed, and was told that he can do whatever he wants to do to me. I then did a little research and found out that that's basically true about Bernie Shepherd. And in that, found out some people that might be able to help me, found a lawyer that's beaten him in appeals court a few times. I knew at that point I needed a lawyer. When I'm talked to like that, I'm a little businessman, I'm nobody, So got a lawyer to write a note, no response. Here I am.
So, Dave, I would ask from your office to get involved and work with Mr. Lechner and resolve this issue. This is, I don't know what the issue is. I'm not going to sit here and comment because obviously I'm not the professional, but we need it done. We need it done yesterday so this gentleman can start his business.
Greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you very
And
much.
I would ask that you just keep council up to date on it. As soon as you have information, send it to us.
Can you leave a contact number with the clerk?
Sure.
In case I need
After the meeting?
President, just so you understand, Mr. Giffens is in business. He's not been prevented from being in business. And there's more to the story.
Oh,
I
Mr.
mean, you're not
Cromer will
explaining
get
everything.
to the bottom of it and work with him and figure it out.
You're not
That's the
explaining-
truth, though. That is the
It's
truth of
part
what
of it,
happened.
partial.
Okay. Thank you. Just make sure, sir, you give your address and stuff to the contact information to the clerk.
Sir, you have a contact number for the gentleman's business?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just get it from Mr. Lechner. Okay, thank you.
Jim?
Knees are hurting. Too much sitting. Going back to 291, just a little bit of a follow-up. in your budget for the coming year, you've got a budget amount for buses going to the school. Is that a shared agreement also, or is that some other type of a thing?
Well, that was voted on by referendum back in the 70s.
Right, so you,
So how that came, how that has gotten to where it is as we built that third high school, it lowered the mileage for a lot more people. So that cost was transferred to the township.
right, oh, by the way, Jim Kibble says sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. But I'm just thinking, like, if you've got, I think it's $500,000
Right.
going to the buses, now, that's handled by the local
Yes.
school district. Can't you hold that up in lieu?
I would think first response, you cannot. That's established by referendum.
Okay.
This is a shared agreement, contract. This is more of a contract to provide services.
And also, those monies are paid to the Black Horse Pike Regional School District, not to the local.
The local.
I thought
providing
local-
the service.
I know they're providing
Yeah.
the service,
Yeah.
but the payment is actually to the Black
Right.
Horse Pike Region.
Right.
Black Horse Pike pays
Right.
for their service to the local, and then we're reimbursing
Correct.
the Black Horse Pike.
Okay, so,
Billing there.
Yes.
so the 500,000 is just for the high schools?
Yes, it's a high school.
Oh,
the
okay.
referendum
I'm sorry, I
for high
didn't,
school
I
students.
thought it was for the entire
No.
service.
Mention, Jim, I kind of feel hinky about holding back money. You know what I mean? We collect the money, we have to disperse it.
I agree, in this case, I'm wrong,
No, I meant
okay,
in
because of the
general.
high school. But, well, the point is that if someone owes us money, you know, why should we keep paying them money?
Because we're
to
not
continue?
vigilantes, you know what I mean? The vigilante justice type thing, I mean, that's why they have courts of law,
It's not
you know?
vigilante. I'm sorry, you know, somebody doesn't do a service for me, I don't want to pay them.
It's,
You know,
I'm.
but are they looking to privatize their own resource officers? Maybe that's it.
Well, they're more than welcome to do that, but then, as Mr. Hudson said, vote it down. We'll remove the officers, and then they can do whatever they need to do.
Okay. All right, good, thank you.
Joanne?
Joanne Carr, Timber Birch. Same topic. I just wanted to reiterate from a few months ago, I was asking you guys if you could have somebody go to the school board to be our liaison with the school board. This would be a perfect reason to have that. And I'm sure the opportunities for it come up many other times too. Maybe, I mean, like, we're talking some big bucks, but maybe we can consider having somebody there just to take it in. That way, I mean, you kind of seemed blindsided by it. So at least if we were attending the school board meetings and we had a liaison, we would know what was going on or not going on.
I'm not blindsided by it. I know.
Now, you know what money's coming in and
I know
what not
exactly
money's
what
coming
monies
in.
are owed, and I've been saying that all along, so it's not a matter of being blindsided, it's a matter of being frustrated.
So we're in a
Well-
quandary here. You know, we want to provide the service. Normally, in the public, you would pull that, but we pull that, and sometimes any of those kids,
And
it's
you're
going to be our
responsible.
fault.
Right.
So we have a major concern, and the Board of Education should have that same concern and that same desire to protect the children. So-
Well, I think maybe you need to have the discussion. You have to have a time where maybe if you attend their closed meetings or whatever, and not necessarily the school board meetings, but a time that you can sit in and find out what's going on. How can we help you? How can you help us? How can you pay your bills? How can you make a vote?
I just think that we may be prevented. I really think we're prevented from putting officers in the school unless they vote for it. I think we are. I don't think we can do that. We have an agreement. We passed it. If they vote it down, I don't think we're permitted to do that. And I think if we do it at our own peril.
Well, we have the administration for us that is working with them, hopefully. Our solicitor will get involved in it, And they have a choice. They either conduct business appropriately, or we'll then have to discuss our actions.
Okay. Well, I would just appreciate it if you would consider, discuss, talk about a possible liaison so that these things don't happen in the future. Thank you.
Anyone else? Pete?
Behind Ball, Morningstar Court, Sicklerville. Couple questions. One, at last week's Gloucester Township MUA meeting, Mr. Council President, you attended that. They passed a resolution calling for a shared service agreement between the MUA and the township for, quote, staffing for the position of certified public works manager, unquote. Can you explain that more?
Tom, you want to explain that?
Yeah, Mr. Carlin will probably go into a little more detail, but my understanding of it is that the state of New Jersey requires us to have at least one certification, a public works certification, which is not an easy thing to achieve. Unfortunately, none of our supervisors at Public Works currently have that certification. And so in order to be compliant with the state requirements through the DCA, we have to designate somebody to hold that certificate. I do not hold that, even though I'm the acting Public Works Director. You are permitted to designate that to an outside agency. A lot of municipalities designate their engineer or a representative from the engineering firm. In this particular case, we're designating somebody that the GTMUA currently uses for their certification. Okay. And we're doing that under a shared service agreement, which I've spoken with the state of New Jersey, and the gentleman with the certification unit agreed that that was a proper way to handle it.
Okay. Is this from Pannoni, the engineering firm Pannoni? Is that?
I believe the gentleman is currently employed by Burlington County.
That's correct, municipality of Brooklyn.
Okay, so this isn't the MUA's engineering contractor, this is an individual, okay. Okay. Another question, I reviewed the 2015 Gloucester Township Professional Services RFQ list that was on the website. It's on the website now, that's listing bids. There was one item on there asking for bids for special counsel, special litigation attorney, which when I looked at the reorganization meeting minutes from this past January, I didn't see. I saw it was on last year's RFQ list, but I didn't see anyone nominated to that position for this year. And then I saw it again on the 2015 RFQ list. What is that position?
We did not recommend an award on that particular item, and I'm not sure that I put that out for the RFQs last year. It may have been part of our list. It may have been authorized by the resolution that the governing body passed, but I don't think it ultimately was part of what we advertised. I think the thought at the time was the Iron Horse gun range, in which case we have a land use specialist attorney, which is the Gibbons firm.
Okay. Then for 2015, we are putting that out for RFQ?
It's out right now, yes. That will be up to council whether.
But that doesn't mean if we don't have a need for it, we don't. So.
Correct.
So you may or may not appoint that for the reorganization, okay. Also, I saw a position on there for grants / community development block grant consultant that I didn't see. It looked like a new RFQ
No,
just this year.
it went out for RFQ after those proposals were submitted. It occurred, I believe, sometime in March or April.
So we have a person.
The company that's in there presently is Triad Associates.
Okay. What changed in March there wasn't a need for this position before March?
We recognized that we were in need of an updated 5-year plan and that there were other requirements. I think that the requirements that the federal government places on those types of programs has increased substantially, and therefore we felt it was in the municipality's best interest to have a professional consultant on that.
Okay. Also, I did not see anyone on the list for Gloucester Township Housing Authority Legal Counsel. A few meetings ago, when I asked a legal-related question about the Housing Authority, I was told that the Housing Authority has their own legal counsel. Do they send out their own RFQs, or how is that?
Yeah, they do their own.
I don't think we have in the past, but
I don't remember us doing that one, but they do have their own.
Is that public?
Yes. That's a public entity.
I mean, I haven't seen minutes or, agendas or meeting minutes or bids. I haven't seen that.
Also, they are the same requirements as an authority. They should have their website, their minutes up.
Do you have a connection to them, Tom?
Well, actually, they do have a website, and I did click on the website. I clicked on a tab that said agenda meeting minutes, and there's nothing. It's a blank page. It says content to come in the future or something like that.
I can reach out to somebody.
Yeah, if you could.
Okay, so related to the Housing Authority, for any expenditures, grants that are received on behalf of the Housing Authority, expenditures made for the Housing Authority, that all runs through the township's books though, right? Is that part of the township general budget? That's a separate budget?
It's a separate budget, separate audit. It's on the building township finances.
It's like from my point of view, it's like the MUA, it's a separate.
Correct.
They're not making things public then. We need to, I don't see budgets, I don't see meeting minutes.
I'll ask Dan and Tom to talk to them.
You know what? I'll talk to you after the meeting. What we can do is we can talk to some of the people over there.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no other hands, we'll close the second public portion. Polling of directors and council, please.
Before you begin polling of directors and council,
Sorry.
I had a meeting this afternoon with a developer in the town that was in the town, out of the town. It's, trying to get back in on a project that they started many years ago. Mr. Lechner and I met with the individuals this afternoon. And some of the issues that developed with that is that they have a tract of ground, not exactly clear as to where it's located. Ken probably has plans if we're able to present that to council tonight. But the issue was that they received their preliminary and final subdivision and site plan approval, which set up, how many lots, Ken?
14 residential lots.
14 residential lots. They were deficient in that they never posted a performance bond, they never had the plans signed off on, and they never recorded the plans in the Camden County Recorder's Office. What happened, that notwithstanding, the municipality went forward, which is appropriate, and established the several 14 individual lots, the open space lot, the basin lot. And then that caused the particular lots to be placed on the tax rolls of the township. Several years went by and the taxes were not being paid. They were sold for tax lien. The tax lien holder on the major 14 lots foreclosed as a judgment, is now the owner of those 14 lots. The individual LLC that was got the approval for the lots is now back in the picture and has an agreement with the tax lien forecloser to purchase back, even though they're in their final judgment. The issue, though, is that the open space tract is a tax lien held by the township. The basin lot is a tax lien held by the township, and there's a front strip lot, and we'll get a better understanding when we look at it, that is owned by someone in Virginia, somewhere, way out of state. Which has a right, if they're paying on their lien, to initiate a foreclosure to take those lots. The problem comes in when the individuals purchased a tax lien certificate. The question becomes, in their mind, did they purchase the whole tract, or did they purchase the subdivided lots that are out? So therefore, you have two people, investors, that have tax liens. So it's creating a legal issue. We met with the developers and their attorney, Ken Lechner, and myself this afternoon. We had some exchanges as to who's at fault here and what have you. But they came to a proposal to try and resolve it. Since it has an issue of possible litigation, it qualifies for closed session. I would request that council, since this came up this afternoon, we met at 1 o'clock, to do a resolution authorizing a closed session. So that we can explain it to council discuss the possible strategies and what agreements we should enter into. And there is a possible resolve. If council would agree to that, then after closed session, we can discuss what the resolve is. Because they have a closing, I believe, Wednesday, 2 days from now, to take back from the Garden State investors the title. They don't want to do that if the township is going forward with its lien foreclosure. So I guess the long and short of it is I would request you entertain a resolution authorizing a closed session for pending litigation on this site development.
So that would be Resolution 300 for council to go into closed session. Do I have a motion? On the question, have a roll call on that, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Styler?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado? Mr. Dinky?
Yes, and the solicitor said we should be in closed session for 10 to 15 minutes.
Thank you.
And then we're coming back on Wednesday for the meeting. I have your cap.
Nobody has like 30 seconds.
Addendum?
Moving it up.
An add-on? All right, I get to take 5 off. Very true. I'm leaving. Have a good Thanksgiving.
You too, thank you.
All right. Yes, like the coconut cream pie?
I'm pumpkin pie, I'm buying the coconut. Okay, and my daughter's making the apple.
Who's making cheesecake?
That's my brother. My mother had a New York cheesecake that was like this high. My brother is a professional baker. I mean, so when we had birthdays, I mean, we'd have Grand Marnier mousse in between. It's a long time ago.
My neighbor up the street, Ray Hughes, he was from cheesecake, and he makes it different ways. Every time, you never know what kind of cheesecake you're going to get.
So you'll enjoy.
Probably not specifically.
Have fun.
Good. See you later. Bye-bye.
I just said, let's, I can name them, Lincoln Drive, Robinson Drive, they have their regular streets that are kind of long.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, once you make that line, it's the longest, straightest strip in the development there. And, I knew they'd come off the road and, got the curve.
Yeah, you got to
That's
slow
over the
down,
top.
yeah.
It's a straight shot. I just don't know what really can be done. I mean, you had the post yeah, which I think they put in a new post and everything, and that was up there longer than I thought it would be.
People really like it.
Yeah. What I know in permanent one, it's on the road that Paul VI is, and another road comes in and it hides.
I've seen one of your cars in high school.
Do we know how much they run?
I would, there's an engineering review out, there's sometimes the streets like that, I wouldn't be surprised, I'm just guessing. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the little one, that goes on the it's really expensive, it's about $35.
In fact, I saw them, what they did, I saw them, after it was up for a while, they came in and changed battery and, they did everything right. Again, it's just,
Yeah, the problem.
you take that away, and then people come along. So I just, I don't, in your opinion, are speed bumps that detrimental to first responders?
It's a big, yeah. You know what happens with, and it's been a while since I've looked at a lot of these studies for this. There's been some, they make slow, different spots.
Right.
And they create neighbor disputes because it'll go in front, some of them one in front of the house, some of them.
Right.
Well, then where do they go? So, stop sign. then they'll accelerate very quickly.
Right.
To make up lost time.
Yeah, to my,
So they almost, the speed has been increased in between the phones. And then that's, neighbors upset. Now they're going faster.
yeah. I mean, like I said, my car was two of my neighbors' cars were plus somebody visiting. No, I think it was a visitor and a repair person. My other neighbors, the corner house, they had two cars. And it's just, and the thing is, I don't know if that always shows up in the reports, because I don't know if people report it. They just
Sometimes
don't.
they don't.
And then you don't have the record for it, because when it happened to us, my wife was like, call up. So call the police. I said, call the police, we have it on record for not only the township, but also for our insurance company. You know,
There's like a big difference.
Yeah.
We pull those.
right. I think people, you know, if it's a neighbor or whatever, they don't want to report it, or, you know, they're in a hurry, they just, exchange information.
It's a common piece for us to go and look at the history of town.
Right, yeah, that's what it
We
is.
actually look at the report, not just the case number.
Right.
We want to see if there's a pattern. So it's not very wide.
It's where if you're coming out of development, it's where it starts to widen. Because you've got the curve coming out, and then it starts to widen.
That's probably right there, it's gonna run down the road, but once you get into the
Yeah, the only strike is right at the front, and that's it. And it begins, you know, at Cedar Creek. Not Cedar Creek.
We did that on Roberts Drive. Remember Roberts Drive in Broadmoor? It's a lot wider, but we did that in Roberts Drive a number of years ago, and we went with WLM. And some people said, well, maybe they thought it would make it go faster, but it really stopped a lot of the place. And then 25 mile an hour must have been throughout. So, look at that. I'd have to get, you know, those funny. But, it might happen. I think the 25 mile an hour thing on the highway. It may help.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little extra reminder.
Yeah.
We don't, there's none there, right?
There's none there.
A couple of streets, Cherrywood Drive was a street that we did that. There's only Cherrywood, maybe Mullen Drive, Roberts Drive, the ones that come to mind, but we'll look at that.
I mean, if it's, you know, if you have data on it, that, you know, shows that, you know, that it stopped it there. But again, it's, you know, the signs come down and, you know, people go to their old habits, and I think it's just you know, some type of constant reminder to get a little slow down. And I'm sure we're not the only development, like you said, that has the problem. But again,
it's lumped in there with Cherry Drive, Roberts Drive.
Because like I said, especially, you know, once you hit that one area, even going up this way, there's a straight run, but the road rises a little bit. So you really don't have a complete dead eye view. Once you make that one, it's all the way. It's all the way down. I think that's what people. I think it might be even more coming out of the development, because as it widens, I think people have more confidence in what they can do.
They go
In fact, the day after my car was hit, I had my dog out in the corner. Car's coming through, and a woman's going down looking on her passenger seat, going for something.
Their roads are old, but I was just through there last night. Just the way they island in the middle of some roads, really put a lot of money into it.
Yeah.
They really.
Well, I know somebody in Haddonfield who complains about the same thing. On Facebook, you know, the speeders coming down. Yeah.
It seems like it has so much into signage.
Yeah.
Holes in the road. I think the type of things that make sure it's very yellow.
Yeah. But like I said, I didn't know whether that was due to that one, you know, that one incident. And they had to report that because they said that, yeah.
I think it played on his mind. It's just been, you know, we just know that it's an area.
Yeah.
But I'll look into the paint. It's working.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Have a good night.
You too. You too.
Oh, did you really? I saw him today as we went back. He was here. We had a. He's a good man, yeah. How does that really?
actually was getting a victory there too. He was on the precipice of victory, sort of. At least they were making it. That's opposite of what we stand up here and tell them every day. Be open and honest with us, transparent. And then when he gets up there and makes his points, it's the opposite. He gets himself logical, trapped like that too. So they don't have personality, so they can speak their mind, and they can just stick to, stop with the Fox News and stuff. They can just stick with the issues, they have an audience, and there's great, they're doing a great job there to make. But they get off track. That's what we're. There's enough to complain about, yeah, but it's not being done right, without getting into. Within 6 months, but it was June 5th. And if the 6 months is actually fit, I don't know whether. I think we worded it as such. You've got to pay a bill in 30 days or whatever. I just think, if they wanted it on that. Your bill is certified between this time and this time, and if nothing will change, any adjustments to that date. So the documentation is fine. If it's in sync, then it's out and it goes back in. Right. Yeah. Right. There's something they would have said not guilty and put this on the. Basically said, let's not do it to deceive the public. Yeah. That's what we're fighting against. That's what we come to this meeting to fight against, deceiving the public. Right. Just have all your keys.
I heard of a lot of people moving into your neighborhood. Every time I talk to a neighbor, I'll say, my daughter just moved into the neighborhood. My son just moved into.
There were a couple of foreclosures. There was one that was really
that thing you met on today?
You know, so we're still in the same spot. Still.
I just assumed, because they don't publicize the meeting, that they were just rolled into the township budget. And I just,
Anything
not.
that's an authority or a commission.
I should have known, I mean, you're right, I did that. But they haven't published it since. Yeah, just so they do for the anyway, but it's a separate authority. Yeah, my authority is a little bit separate.
I have a friend who was going on. One time, they were building the complex. That's another one to go to.
But, and you see, Hutch is our liaison to that. Should have been from day one, whenever it started, I don't know how we got started, but yeah, it's been many, many years. Budgets, financial statements, bill lists, agendas, and minutes. None of that, we should be making all that, anyway.
There's numbers.
They have commissioners to the authority to get paid. You know, but the two or three that were just elected. No, we won. He ran elected. He ran as team mayor. Helen, she lost, but she was the team mayor. He took the money, was elected. And then Tina Geller ran team mayor, but Mary Ann Johnson. Possible, yeah. But it's not illegal. They're taking advantage of the gray areas of the law regulations that we could call them, right? But it's the loopholes in the gray area. Oh, that. Oh, the fact they're paid, tie that in.
But it's the reason they're not, well, it's not, the reason they're not paying is because they don't.
So I would have to say, the neighbors complain about it. No, what do you got?
Well, it could be, except for the fact that now they're, other one is one that's if you go over and you read the word
Overhead, he has this whole background support. He can call in there. I mean, you want to charge overhead, in a way. But still, I mean, you don't have to.
At one school, they'll all get there before you do. So, I mean, I was going to make a statement when my kids went to school. There wasn't a good program. It's a different holiday.
You're all politically wrong.
I don't think they give it the first security times. It's going to cost a lot more. Well, if you're paying the firm, then they're paying their.
Yes, you're paying the firm a little higher, but the guys are paying crap. I think it's a little over minimum wage. It'd just be 10 months too, you have to pay your 12 months.
But you wonder how vested that person the way they were told.
I will.
You read your email?
No. I am like a snail mail guy, so you and I, we can talk on the phone, we can do it like that.
Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison.
Present.
Mr. Schmidt.
Present.
Mr. Seiler.
Here.
Mrs. Winters. Here. Mr. Mercado.
Here.
Mr. Banky.
Present. So we were in closed session probably 15, 20 minutes, and we had a discussion regarding the project the solicitor spoke about prior to going into closed session, and I will let him explain the fine details.
The basic issue is there are 14 lots that appear on the township tax map as buildable lots, I'll describe it that way. That there were tax liens on, and there was a private third-party investor on those 14 lots. Part of the development was an open space 4-acre lot. There's a tax lien on that, but the township is the tax lien holder. There's a front basin lot that's part of the development. The township is the tax lien holder on that. And then there's an open space, small piece up front. There's a third-party investor that has a tax lien on that small piece of ground. It's really not, it's part of the development, but it's not an essential part of the development. The owner who lost the lot through tax lien and tax lien judgment foreclosure is now in negotiation with the lien holder to purchase the 14 lots back. The issue that he has is the township owns the tax lien on the open space, the township owns the tax lien on the basin, which is essential to the development, and there's a third-party owner of the small piece in the front that owns a piece. The question becomes how much of that front piece does that third-party owner have by tax lien certificate. It's a little bit confusing the way it was sold, so we have to determine that. They want to purchase as long as they understand that the township will not assign its tax lien to a third party for the basin. They're going to purchase from the third-party lien holder on the 14 lots. They're going to purchase that back. They're actually going to redeem the open space by paying the township on its tax lien. They want an agreement that the township will continue to hold the front portion, which is the basin, for a 2-year period and not assign their tax lien like we assigned some here earlier this evening, or foreclose it. They want that agreement because that'll help them get their financing. Council has given me directions to say we will do that, provided that they perfect this subdivision, they post their performance bonds, and they record their plans in the county, which they have not done. That's how this got as complicated as it is. Once they do that, the township will agree, if all those things are cleared up, that we will hold the tax lien that we have on the basin, provided their performance bond is in place, so we have guarantees for the site improvements such as the road, curbs, and sidewalks, and the lots are perfected by recording with the county. The only glitch to it is we want them to clear up the issue on the front portion that has an out-of-state third-party lien holder. We want them to buy that piece back also, because there's a question as to how much that person owns. So if those things come into place, the direction I have is to enter into an agreement to hold our tax lien on the basin for 2 years. The benefit, or there's not a downside to that, because if the development were completed, we would own that basin anyway. If we enter an agreement not to assign it to someone else, it helps them get their financing. Is that clear enough?
Clear as mud.
Could you repeat that, please?
You summarize this.
Now, Dave, since we gave you direction, do we need to vote on that?
You don't need to vote, I just wanted to know that I have direction that I can speak to their attorney tomorrow as to where we are, what we want them to do. That will give them direction to proceed with their final approvals.
And then you would, at the appropriate time, bring it back to council?
Yes, as it moves forward, I'll bring it back out, and actually, you can't enter into that agreement unless you do a resolution authorizing the signing of it. That means everything's coming together.
Alrighty, thank you, Dave. We now, polling of directors and council.
Mr. Lechner?
I have nothing to add, thank
Mr. Parliament?
Nothing.
Mr. Cantwell?
Nothing.
Mr. Cardis?
Thanksgiving.
Mr. Hutchison?
Briefly, these meetings get hotly contested at times, but I truly do value a lot of the comments, a lot of the questions, and the things that are brought up at these meetings. For instance, Mr. Einbach, you bring up excellent points, excellent. And if I get into it with you at different times, that should not be seen as my not respecting your level of intelligence and what you bring to the table. And I sincerely mean that.
Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you for coming out. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
Mr. Seiler?
Yes, I attended the Christmas open house at Gable Davis Tavern on Sunday. They had a huge crowd there. The parking lot was full. There was a lot of students and their parents, and that was the largest crowd that I have seen at the tavern for their Christmas open house. And I would like to thank Joanne Carr and other members of that board for setting this up. They did an outstanding job letting the public know about what's happening there at Gable Davis Tavern. I think they went through the school. They put out notices to all of the schools about the event, and the parents brought the kids out. It was a great event. Thank you, Joanne.
Mrs. Winters?
Happy Thanksgiving, have a safe week.
Mr. Mercado?
If you had a chance to go down 42 during the day, you've noticed that we have a crane in Gloucester Township. Walls are being erected are being put into place at the outlets, and that's good. When's the last time you saw cranes here in Gloucester Township? So progress. Thank you for coming out this evening, and have a great holiday.
Mr. Bain?
Now, I'd like to thank the residents for attending tonight's meeting, and I wish each and every one a happy Thanksgiving and a great week. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. All those against? Ayes have it. Yeah.
Yes, sir.